Yeah, nice.
Missed it. Hey, welcome to Taiwan. So it's our pleasure to have you guys over here. So why don't you guys start by introducing, your group and about yourselves as well.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We're in Taiwan. John, it's a pleasure to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Josh from New York. I live in Puerto Rico now and I've been part of the show for 7 years.
My name is Tammy. Thanks for having us. I've been a part of the show for 7 years as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm Phil. I've been part of the show for 17 years and I currently live in Germany. I'm originally from England.
Hi, I'm Andy. Thanks for having us. And I've been doing the show for 21 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, long time. I'm originally from Massachusetts in the States, right near Boston.
Right.
But I live in London, UK. I'm a citizen there now.
Yeah, so the group has been around since 1991. That's when it first started, right? So it must have gone through many members, right? And then you have crews. You do shows on Broadway and UK, US. So you have like different people at different places, and like how many people at most have you had? At one point. Do you know?
So at one point there were 5 shows running at the same time around the world, and there's 12 people in the cast, so 60.
60.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think a question that a lot of people are curious is that, Stomp is a show that incorporates like, percussion and dancing. So
And humor. Yeah.
And that too. So are the members dancer first or percussionists first?
We all come from different backgrounds. I'm a tap dancer. These guys are drummers mostly. We play the guitar. Everybody, we have an extensive training program, extensive training process where we just learn the show. Yeah.
So you find that like the drummers might have to learn to move better, and the dancers gotta we learn from each other.
Right.
So like like someone that's a dancer might help you out with like a movement solo, whereas the drummer might help the mover out with a drum solo.
Right.
We just help each other out.
So
it makes the show more interesting that we are such a diverse cast.
So would you know which one is easier? Like, drummer, is it, well, personally, I find that learning how to dance from a musician's perspective is harder. So I don't know whether that's true or not.
As a drummer myself, I wouldn't really call myself a dancer, but we move in a kind of like very, it's a way that is very kind of like, it's kind of specific to Stomp. So we're we're not like specifically dancers or drummers, we just become stompers,
Right.
The drummers kind of like learn how to move out of their comfort zone from being behind a kit, and the dancers learn how to actually play percussion whilst actually moving interestingly as well.
Right.
It's choreography for the show.
Yes, for sure.
So, it's more movement more than dancing. There can be some dancing, but it's more moving ourselves around stage.
Right.
Which makes the show pretty interesting because we're making rhythms with an object while moving with that object.
Yes.
And drummers usually just stand there, but it's a little different,
Yeah, but I guess, with musicians, we kind of have to flow and the energy as well. Like we headbang.
I think dancers and percussionists and musicians, our main bass line is rhythm.
Yeah, exactly.
So we both have rhythm.
Yeah.
We know where the one is. We always say, "Where's the one? Where's the one?" We know where the one is, and we can definitely move.
Yeah, but we go with the and.
That's that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, Stomp has been around for so many years. So how does the group evolve with time? Like do you reflect on what's going on with the world, stuff like that?
Well, as you'll see, like different routines, there's like different feels. Like we have like some like Afro-Cuban rhythms, we've got some Latin, Brazilian, so it's kind of like we take inspiration from different styles of percussion from around the world, and incorporate that in the show, and even like one of the, as far as like, what's happening in the world, we actually recently changed one of our routines called bags, where we're taking stuff out of a trash bag and playing with it. And we're kind of sending a message by, when we're done playing with it, putting in a recycling bin, So yeah, I guess in a way we do kind of evolve with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I read it that, Andrew is a guitar player.
Yeah, I'm a drummer first, but I play guitar and singing. I love this kind of my.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as a guitar player myself.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask, what's your rig?
So I've got a Ibanez acoustic.
Okay.
Which that's my baby. I've got a Yamaha. I don't know what the model is, but it's like a travel guitar.
Right.
That I travel with sometimes. I've got my Gibson SG and my Fender Telecaster.
Right.
And I've got an orange amp.
Right.
A combo.
Okay.
And then I play an Orange County custom drum kit, which is so good. It's my favorite. Yeah.
So the other, your drummers as well. So, what kind of drums do you play?
I'm actually Puerto Rican, so I just recently learned. I moved to Puerto Rico myself.
Right.
I was born in New York, now I live in Puerto Rico. Pandemic pushed me out there, so I'm there enjoying the island. But I've learned now how to play something called the bomba drum.
Right.
It's like a conga.
Yeah.
It's a hand drum, but it's more of it's made out of a beer barrel. Yeah,
Sweet.
It's old school. Yeah, really cool. But I'm a percussionist myself, as far as playing hand drum, drum set as well. So that's what I like to play.
I live in an old German apartment building with wooden floors, so I play I have a Roland TD9 kit with mesh tones to.
Yeah, the silence one there.
Yeah, so I can still practice, but make as little noise as possible without annoying that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here in Asia, right? Most people live in apartments,
right,
so we can't really make noises. Yeah.
It's hard for us, right?
Yeah.
We express ourselves.
Yeah. I used to play on pillows as a kid. That was my first drum set. Just your wrist gets a lot faster.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Because you don't have to bounce things, right?
You good.
More about Stomp, instrument-wise. How, when was the last time that you heard something? Let's say when you're just going around with your daily lives, and you heard a noise. It's like, hey, we can use that for a show.
The creators of the show, just for an example of how they were in Paris and they saw these like black corrugated plastic tubes that are like maybe this wide in diameter and really long. They're used to dispose like big fluorescent light bulbs.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
But I think for other things as well. But it sounded really good. So like a guiro, right, which is a percussion instrument. And so they decided to incorporate that into the finale number of the show, which we changed about, 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool element because that routine is so big and loud, and then it comes down with and they found those on the street, like, let's put that in the show. So that's cool, I think. That's a good example.
That's a pretty good example.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And so, what's the thing that you find the most difficult to perform with?
Oh, so we have these inner tubes. We have a number called donuts.
Donuts.
Basically, it's the inner tube of a tractor wheel.
Right.
Which you fill the air in to make the wheel pop.
Yeah.
Not pop, but to fill the
inflate.
Inflate.
Great word. To inflate. And so we play with those, and we usually strap them onto our waists, and bringing them up and down and side to side, and we turn around. All of that is one of the hardest numbers to play.
Right.
It's kind of like a type of drumming. Use thicker sticks to they make bassy sounds.
Which is another example of your other question about where we get things inspiration from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tractor.
Yeah. We kind of look like odd urban ballerina. These like big industrial tutus.
Yeah. You'll see.
Not looking forward to that.
So come and see us.
That's better than like traditional tutus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what you ask.
Because the thing is with that routine too, it's not meant to be funny. We look serious,
right?
But it looks funny.
Yeah.
It looks silly.
It's huge. It's so big.
Because we move around with them too, and it's like becomes the piece.
Wobble.
Yeah. So that kind of ties into one of my questions, which I'm going to jump in order. So you guys mentioned that that was meant to be like a serious piece, right? And for your performances, there are no dialogues, but there are characters, there are roles, right? And so how do you assign a role to, let's say, specific member of the group, and how do you try to express yourselves through all your different instruments?
Well, there are 8 characters in the show, and they're all based on original cast members of their personalities. And so there's there's a guy that's in charge that they call Sarge. He's in charge. There's a funny guy who's a little bit like a misfit called Mozzie, like mosquito. And anyway, so when you get hired for the show, there's a training process, and through that training process, you kind of see what kind of personalities people have without the speaking and everything else, and then they kind of assign you to that role, and you have room to and bring yourself to it. So it's based on like, okay, you're a funny guy, but how are you going to play it? Are you going to be kind of antagonistic? Or are you going to be goofy? You know what I mean? Like there's certain ways to play things. So it's really cool. We got so much freedom to be ourselves. Yeah.
So that kind of also ties into another question, which is how do you audition for Stomp? Or anything interesting, funny, memorable happened during each of your auditions?
You guys should go first. I'm doing so much talking. But I when I auditioned, it was my final audition, and they said, okay, this is the last time you're gonna do. We do like this hands and feet routine, and you have to do solos where you just on your own, you come out and you do rhythm. And they're like, all right, this time go out there and just be yourself, throw something out there, do your thing. So I did my solo, and I put my hand on my crotch and was like, like
Michael Jackson.
And I think that's one of the reasons they hired me, because I could play, but I showed like a kind of weird, crazy, funny side to me. So the first role I did was kind of that weird, crazy guy. Nice.
I've always said, I don't know if you guys know what this game is. There's a game called Bop It. Bop it, twist it, pull it. It's this old game. It's like a toy. It's this old toy. I always say Stomp is like the Bop It, the human Bop It version, right? Only because like they get for the audition, what they did was they give you these props and they want to see what you can do.
Ah, okay.
So they gave us these garbage lids. They want to see how you move. They want to know if you have rhythm. Then they teach us different rhythms with brooms. And at first you pick this thing up and it's awkward. You don't really know how to use it, right? Because we're making music out of these objects.
You guys know how to
exactly, yeah. Still know how to do it. But yeah, they mostly want to see your personality. So him doing like this, and screaming like that, they're like, okay, yeah, we want that guy. Have him come in, but they want to see you pop out. Something has to pop out.
So any other, special stories, funny stories?
I mean, at the end of my first audition, like I'd never been involved in like professional theatre auditions before in my life. So it was the very first audition I ever did for anything, and because they were like group or in a group sense, at the end the people running the audition asked to they had chosen we want to see that person and that person again.
Right.
So they called out 3 names, and they were like, can we see you afterwards? And I was like, oh my god, what have I done? I thought I'd done something wrong. Yeah, and like I was in trouble or something. And I was like, what? Can we see
you're in trouble.
And I was like, oh god, what is it? Like, can you come back tomorrow? And I was like, why? To audition again. I was like, but we just did it. Yeah, it's like another stage. I was like, oh, okay. I was like,
get out.
Yeah. And then it happened the next day as well. They're like, can you stay back? And I was like, oh, wasn't that one out? And then can you come back again tomorrow? I'm like, what? And because when I auditioned, I wasn't thinking in my mind oh, I'm gonna get into the show Stomp. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a fun thing to do for the day, and then I'll have a good story to tell. And then it was just kept going. I was like, whoa. And then now here, 17 years later.
In Taiwan.
Yeah, telling the story.
Yeah, I auditioned multiple times. The first time I got through the first round, and they gave us the brooms and they taught us the line, and the creator of the show just said you're gonna come out and you're gonna say oi, and then you're gonna do this. And I had never heard of oi in my life because I lived in New York. I'm from Japan. And I just remember being so nervous. I didn't know what to do, and I just like pulled one of the teachers aside. I was like, "What am I supposed to say? What is that? What is the word?" And I still just come on stage and I go, "Ah."
We don't call it oi because, like in England where it was created, it's kind of a green like oi,
yeah.
come here.
And okay, so what you said kind of reminds me of a show. I'm not sure if you heard it, called like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, I love it.
Improv that show.
Yeah, so like you mentioned that you were just given props and tried to do make something out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, that's like exactly what they did on that show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to some instrument questions. I mean, was there anything that you think or you thought would be like a good instrument, but didn't actually work out?
Yeah, you know what? There's kind of a story here. Basically, the way that we write routines is the creator has an idea, and he calls a few of us down to where we work on. So they have a theater in Brighton, UK, and we were working on a piece called Shopping Trolleys, like a shopping cart you have in a grocery store, and it was just a cart. There was nothing else, and a water bottle, a plastic water bottle that was empty, like the ones that like the cooler bottle. And we were working on another routine, and it was these boxes. They were kind of like blue, like packing boxes to move, like plastic ones. And we had a break, and we were working on this routine with the boxes, and it wasn't really working. And we came back from lunch, and our boss was there, and he had got rid of those and put the small box in the trolley. So now the trolley had the scraping, the box that was like kind of a bass sound, and the bottle like a snare. So that routine wasn't going to work with just the blue boxes, but he found a way to make it work and make that other routine better. So I think that's a pretty good example. Didn't work, but then we made it work in another way.
Cool.
Now there is a bungee that straps the bottle in. Was there a bungee? Did they have a bungee like to start with, or
No.
they just threw the bottle?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
The bottle was also a prop, right? Before.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay, so like again, being musicians ourselves, when we perform, we have to mic instruments, right? Even the amps are mic'd, right? So with your instruments, they're more unique. So how are they mic'd, during your performances?
Yeah, we were talking to our sound technician is with us, who he actually designed the whole sound of the show. And
It's
so it's
brilliant.
an array mics that will pick up sounds they pick up the soundscape depending on your proximity to the microphones themselves and where you are on the stage. So we're actually not mic'd up ourselves.
Right.
We have like
The floor mics.
microphones at the front of the stage and up in the set. So
And in the blues.
Yeah,
and in the
hidden
blues
in
and some of the
actual
drums, yeah. So we are mic'd up, but not individually.
With any sort of performances, there's bound to be accidents or screw ups, right? So were there anything that you were again memorable or?
I got one. We have a number called paint cans.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Where we're all juggling these paint cans. We hit out numbers, throw them in the air, pass it to the next person. So we pass it this way while another one's coming this way. So it's very like, right? Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. And we always say, give a good toss.
Get a good toss.
Get a good toss, right? So I gave a good one, but I got a bad one. And it got me right here in my eye. Boom. And so I got a scar. This ain't the scar. Down here. I don't know if you want to zoom in. You want to zoom in? But one time, I had just blood just going out. And luckily, it was during rehearsal. It wasn't during the show.
Right.
What happened in the show, for me, we get injured all the time, right? I was very inspired by a show that I watched from the day before. We had the garbage lids. And so we go like this, and I went too far back and went, pop, dislocated my shoulder.
Ooh.
I was out for 10 weeks, and so I had to put my shoulder back into place.
Ouch.
So I kind of went like this and wiggle it back. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, so we get injured all the time, right?
Injuries and mistakes.
Yeah.
Injuries.
Happens.
Sometimes there's routines that will fall down, especially that paint can routine. And so the person in charge, Sarge, will be like, okay, everyone, all right, stop, let's count, keeping a rhythm going. But all right, we're gonna go from this section, on my count, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can fix it, but it gets embarrassing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
that's
audience
just a little
most of the
bit.
time doesn't even know. So
because there's no talking. When we do talk, it's like because we need to talk. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My very last show in New York, the New York show closed in January, but I was in the very last show, and we had a theater full of ex-stompers who came to celebrate the legacy of the 29 years of run. And I was playing the matches, and at the end of my solo, I dropped my matches on the floor. Like by mistake, and the creators of the show have it on camera. Everybody was watching, and I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do.
Did they laugh at you or anything? Like the ex-stompers?
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, she just dropped it." I had to keep my composure, and one of the audience members actually picked it up for me, and I was just like.
We rehearse before every show. Each night we rehearse for at least an hour. But because we're a cast of 12, there's 8 people on stage, and then we all alternate roles as well. So each night there's always like a slightly different lineup to the night before. So when there's things like this, where you're juggling metal cans, you know, one time you might be throwing to someone on the count of 1, and another time you might be throwing to someone on the count of 4. So you need to but everyone has to adjust their minds around. And so sometimes, you know, a split second is all it takes for you to be like, am I 1 or 4? And then bam.
Ouch.
So you know, it's accidents can happen, but the show must go on. So we figure ways of fixing it and going on.
So you try to make it as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
As if it was planned.
Yeah, so, you know, more question was kind of answered previously, which is, you know, how do you come up with instruments, right? But, you know, I'll guess it was kind of answered, because I was going to ask, you know, how do you choreograph those objects with, you know, the moves?
Well, we workshop it, and, you know, we have a version of it, and we put it into the show, and the creator will come out, change it again. So, like, we have a new routine that we're bringing here, called Suitcases, for example. And we are on our maybe 4th version of it, and I think this is the final version.
Wow.
You know? But like so you gotta relearn some things or change things and whatever, because it's like writing a song, and then you're like, but they have the ability. We're not laying it down and recording it. It's just live theater. So it's like, we can change it if we want. And if he's like, no, I'm not happy with that, I'm gonna change it. Okay, now it's written, now it's finished. So it can take months for it to be really complete.
Okay, so, you know, you're back in Taiwan, right? You've been to Taiwan before, right? And now the group is coming back. Can we expect anything like exclusive that we cannot see somewhere else?
I know for me, all right, so the music is written,
right?
The show, but we can improvise based on our character, right? I play a comedic role, play 2 comedic roles in the show. And I think one thing that I learned out here is everyone goes like this. So that's something that I'm gonna bring.
Right.
You know, there might be other surprises. I want to learn more other things, you know, and then bring that into the show as well.
Yeah, incorporating local things. Finding out, oh, what would this be? How would you do that? Like, you know, and try to bring some of that flavor so people recognize it.
Yeah, we have a lot of freedom in the show to put individual spin on things, or like individual solo moments.
Right.
So especially when we're in different countries, different cultures, we can keep an eye out for things and be like, oh, I saw that the other day, like in the street, like let's see if we can chuck that in the show. So it all depends. Like it can just depend on the day. Like if you've just been walking around and you hear something or see something, like try and put that in the show. We've seen the traditional slippers that people wear here.
Right.
So maybe that's something that we put on in the show, and then you never know. It's just what can you do with that object, you know?
Right.
You have that freedom.
Yeah. So always be creative and you find new ways to go, because that's kind of what Stomp is, right? You don't use traditional instruments. Yeah. So for the 30th anniversary, as you mentioned, Suitcases, and we read there's another one called Poltergeist.
That's
right. So what's the story behind those routines?
It was inspired by they had another show called The Lost and Found Orchestra, and they had a routine called like floating marimbas.
Okay.
So there was like these wooden blocks, and someone would play them, and they'd walk up them like steps, and also other things would be passed around, and they'd play them. So that's what it was inspired by, because that show they don't really do it anymore. And we came in to workshop this new routine, and he didn't have anything written. He just said, "Hey, okay, Andy, you go grab a couple of metal objects and some plastic ones. You grab those ones. You grab these. Just grab what you want." So you grab what we wanted, and he's like, "Okay, all right, I want something plastic for this note." Go, okay, now metal, boom, and it ended up being we were kind of walking past and doing this, and then throwing them to each other. So it's like there's someone in a spotlight playing all these things that are just coming into the light. So it's almost like the idea is like poltergeist, like an possessed objects just floating around the room that you're playing. So that's where the name comes from.
And so, from what I heard, that a lot of the members of the group have like a lot of input into the routines, right? Because not just the creator created something and then say, okay, all of you, do what we've created. But instead, you mentioned workshops, right? So it was like kind of like, oh, I have this idea and see what you guys can come up with. Is that kind of how certain routines and programs are?
There's for each number, there's like a framework, like a musical framework of how the piece is going to be, like a beginning, a middle, and an end, for example.
Right.
And maybe like 75% of the music is written within that framework. And then we have each individual character has the opportunity to add their own kind of flair into it. So if you ever see anyone on their own doing a solo within the show, that's like their own. It's not like the creator's been like, right, you have to do this 4 bars of solo. It's just like, right, you're gonna have 4 bar solo. Like whatever you want to do is up to you, but it's like that's what you're gonna do.
And it keeps the show fresh, right?
Right.
So today I might do a solo. Tomorrow I know I have to do a solo at that same spot. I want to switch it up, depending on the energy that we get from the crowd, the energy of the day, with the weather. However you feel that day is what you can bring on stage.
Yeah, I guess that's why people like to go to see live performances, right? You know, or else why don't you just stay at home and listen to CDs?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
But it keeps the show fresh because it's not night by night the same thing, and it keeps it fresh for us. We've done the show for a lot of collectively a number of years, and it's
different every night.
We don't get bored going into doing the show because we can be like, I'm going to switch it up tonight. I'm going to play this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to play this faster, slower.
But depending on what mood you're in. I'm in a chill mood. I'm going to be chill with my playing or my character. Oh, I'm angry. I need to let some aggression out. I'm going to be aggressive. It's really cool. Like I said, that's why we can do it so long, because we have that freedom. It's an outlet for us.
Yeah, so what is your favorite routine program or song?
Want to go down the list?
Yeah, it changes every interview. But I'll say the same except for the last one. I like Brooms. We have Brooms as the opening number. It's like you said, it's probably the only word we say on stage when we come in. We say "oi," as we talked about already. Yeah. But it's cool because you see everybody come in their own way. Some people say "oi" or whatever, however you want to say it, whatever. But it's a cool moment to just see how diverse the whole cast is.
And it's a classic.
Big ones, small ones, whatever the nationality, doesn't matter. We're all that's the beauty of the show. So that's a great opening number, and I love that number a lot.
Yeah, he mentioned the opening number. My favorite is the last number.
Ah.
Yeah, the Vince, where we literally use everything you see on stage, the biggest instruments too. The guys go on the walkers, which are huge barrel oil
drums, 50-gallon oil drums.
Yeah, with a ski boots, and they walk on them.
Yeah, strapped to our feet through ski boots.
Yeah.
Right.
I get to play the big bin. So it's for me it's the most powerful number, and there's different dynamics. The grills in there, and I feel like that's what I imagine Stomp.
And it sounds like it has a lot of room for improv in that number.
There's a lot of solos, for playing, and we have lids on, and people do solos and spotlight movement solos. So there's a lot of improv in it. It's very strictly choreographed because it's dangerous. But
that's why I dislocated my shoulder was that number.
One of my favorite pieces to play is a piece called Suspension.
Okay.
And what we do is we wear these climbing harnesses, and we climb to the top of our set, attach ourselves to a rope, and we have 4 people kind of hanging on these ropes, and we have a big set just full of various different items: fire extinguishers, wheel rims, old sinks. and there's a whole piece where we're just playing like drums on all these like weird looking things, and it's like it's cool. It's being like coming from a drumming background, it's just nice to like sit there hanging out, just jamming out. Yeah.
I kind of have two, if that's all right. So I had the shopping trolley one that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
I love that because there's so many different sounds in it, and it's also in 5/4 timing. And we do like triplets, like in 4 over 5/4.
Polyrhythm.
Yeah. So it's like very impressive as a drummer. I'm like, wow, it was hard to learn. And we do all the stuff, and then it kicks in when it kicks in for the first time with the box and the bottle, it's so funky and you feel it, and it's just like, whoa, I love it. And then the other one is the hands and feet routine, which is, we're only using our bodies, which I think is cool. We're not using any objects, and it just fires me up every time we really kick into it, because it's like, I don't know, it's just, you really feel it. It's nice.
What is your favorite instrument to play?
Like traditional instrument?
I mean, like in Stomp.
Oh, in Stomp.
Mine's the Zippo.
Zippo.
Yeah. Because we play a piece and then the piece of music becomes visual.
Right.
We play in complete darkness, and then when we open and spark the Zippos, you can then see the lights dancing down a line.
We've got like in the back of the set, there's like 4 big blue toxic waste bins, and they got like plexiglass head on it basically, and you play those, and mic'd up, it sounds like the fattest kick drum you've ever heard. So it's like, that's my favorite, because when you hit that, you feel it feels so good, and it just sounds so good, right?
I love it. Put me down every time I play it. I'm always wailing at it.
Yeah, that's why I said.
So yeah, that was mine.
Yep. So Tammy?
The big drum.
The big orange drum. Skip,
yeah, we call them skip because it's
skip.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now that you're in Taiwan for I guess I forgot the term, but any places that you want to go, or like what can you expect?
Yes, I heard there's a love temple. A temple of love, where you find your future wife.
I probably know which one you're talking about.
You throw, I think you throw the blocks. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to come? You want to hang out?
The market with the snake blood.
I'm not sure if they have it anymore.
No, I just heard about it. It seems really interesting.
Maybe.
I want to get to the night markets.
Yeah, night markets is what I'm really excited about.
Right.
See, have some food.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah.
Night market?
No, just like
for
us to see.
Yeah, Taipei 101 is always one of the landmarks of Taiwan, right? Or Taipei in particular, right? Night market, I would say, is another one, right? At least in Taipei, night markets are pretty much like every day. Because in other cities, they might only have them on specific days, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about because you said about do you have any recommendations? You're a guitar player.
Yeah.
You play in a band?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but I used to.
But you must know like a good place to go see live music. Raw music or metal or
yes.
Yeah.
You guys have a punk bar?
Like something like that. I love going to different cities and seeing different metal and punk bars. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I would say Revolver.
What's that?
Revolver. There's a bar called Revolver.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the gun revolver. Yeah, so first floor is just the bar.
Okay.
Right? Pub. Yeah, and the second floor they have live music.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I don't remember like what bands are playing. And,
it's just the vibe and the.
Because like there are a lot of so-called foreigners. They just go to the pub to drink, and it's like, hey, if they hear music upstairs, then it's like, oh, that sounds like something that I might be interested in, and they just go up. Well, obviously you have to pay, but it's an experience, I guess. Yeah. Other than that, there are different live venues, but it really depends on who booked it and when was that kind of thing. Yeah, the Revolver is more of a spontaneous place where you can just go.
Cool. September.
Yeah.
Revolver.
We'll be there.
Mental notes. Yeah.
Sweet.
Also, I hear there's something cool happening in the Taipei Music Center.
Oh, and also in Kaohsiung.
Yeah.
Yes. Also in September.
Yes.
Cool show on.
Yes.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So you want to tell me more about it?
So yeah, the Taipei Music Center from September 15th to the 17th.
Right.
And in Kaohsiung, we're playing the 22nd to 24th.
Sweet. So yeah, we'll glad to have you back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're psyched. We can't wait.
This is all of our first time.
Yeah, this is all our individual first time playing
Right.
here,
The show's
so-
been here since 9 years ago, but for us, it's going to be the first time. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward
Okay.
to having you guys in Taiwan.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
So that about wraps up this interview. So thank you again.
All right, nice one, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
That was my favorite interview we've done this week. I swear to God.
Yeah, bro.
It was so.
Smooth.
Nice to hear.
It was relaxed and the questions were great and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because we're called YSO Life, which in Chinese it literally translates into like musician's nest. So we try to go from an angle as musicians, because again I used to play in a band, right?
Yeah.
And then the camera guy, he still plays in a band.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
and all of us obviously listen to music. They are editors for editorial side. So yeah,
Cool.
we try to have questions from different angles.
Cool.
Sweet.
You
Love
get
it.
it.
Excellent.
Nice. Thanks. Great to meet
Yep, thank you.
Very much.
Maybe we'll come see your
Yeah.
band play in September.
Yeah.
What do you like?